I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mike Podshead, present.
Selena Thomas, present.
Veronica Kell, present.
Emily Fine, present.
Remotely. Emily's the only one of us that is remote. We're supposed to note that in the minutes, I understand. So, all right. The meeting is being recorded and it will be uploaded to YouTube. I'm just gonna check and see if there's anybody else recording. I don't see anybody else on but us. All right, hearing none. Additions or deletions. I don't have any right now. I should say that when we get to CR models, I'll talk about all that, but I don't have any additions or deletions to the menu, to the agenda. Does anybody else?
No, I'm just glad that I wasn't named as the person who opened the can of worms at the beginning of last
meeting.
You weren't.
So I have an addition, maybe.
Okay.
It might not be. I'm wondering about specifying the exact portion of the property that will get the CR.
That is something that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
During this. Did I put? Well, I guess I sent out the deed, and I think a map again. I mean, which they were repeats from what you had gotten early on, because I want to look at that, because in the discussion of the CR models, I think we need to talk about, should we add that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's an added thing or if it's part of one of the others.
So let's go 2.15. Let's add a discussion of the map of the property and the deed.
I think we might need to discuss it before we discuss the uses.
Okay.
Because depending on what the CR is going to pertain to will depend on what we have to include of allowed and not allowed.
So let's call it 2.05. Discussion of the deed and the property map. It all kind of goes together.
It does.
Are you good with that, Emily? Is that okay with you?
Yep.
And Michael, is that okay with you? Okay, so we'll add a discussion of the deed and the property map as 2.05. We could call it 2.0. Let's call it 2.0 before 2.1. All right. Emily wrote the minutes for April 10th, the April 10th meeting. Did everybody get a chance to read them?
Yes.
So is there, let's take a motion to accept first, and then we can discuss. So is there a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of April 4th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so discussion on the minutes. Is there anything that should be added or subtracted or clarified or anything like that?
I don't believe so.
Michael? No. All right, I don't have anything to add or subtract. And Emily, you wrote them, so I assume you don't have anything either to add or subtract. All right, so roll call vote in favor of the minutes, starting at the table here with
Mike
Michael.
said yes.
Selena Thomas, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes.
Emily Fine, yes.
All right, so the minutes are accepted. All right, so we're going to go to 2.0, which is a discussion of the deed and the property map. I was really hoping that Todd was here, because I really wanted, that's why he's on the committee, the water department to be involved with looking at this and making their recommendations and thoughts. And just saying a blanket, I mean, we own the property, just to make a blanket statement. We know where that stands, so. All right, so let me get to the CR. I'm gonna share my screen. I was gonna bring up the map. 424 packet. So what did I send out? Oh, I didn't send it. I sent an email with these things in it. So I sent the deed, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna bring up the deed. And then I'm trying to remember which map. I think it was 2449. Was it that one? There were so many.
Yes, that one has a really bad photocopied version of the property.
I think that's the one that's referenced in the deed, and that's, I think,
Yes.
why I sent that one out. So, all right. So now I have to screen share. So I'm gonna pull up the deed. There it is. Can I shrink this down? All right. Are we looking at the deed now? Yes.
Yep.
All right, so on the deed, there were 3 parcels. The part that is, and they do refer to the plan. Can I share the plan at the same time? Let's see. Yeah, I can. Okay, there's the plan. And can I bounce back and forth between the plan and the deed, I wonder? Oh, I can't. All right, so let me go back to the deed, and then we'll go back to the plan. I might, there must be a way to bounce back and forth between the two.
I think if you share your window instead of the individual documents, then you can just
Then I could
switch.
do it. Okay, well, here we are. So there are 3 parcels. One is B2, containing 4.65 acres. B1, which is open space containing 7.67 acres, and parcel D, containing 3.3 acres. So we're going to look at those. And then there's a 4th parcel, which is B3A, containing 24.4 acres. All right, B3A, which here it has a dash and here it doesn't, but that's the nature of the beast way back when this was done. It shows as existing wells and within a 400-foot radius of the existing wells and the access strip from Mason Road may be used by the Townsend Water Department as the site of a future well and access and egress therefrom. The remaining portions of B3, B2, and B1 shall be known as Holly's Playground. Okay, so now, oh, it worked.
Okay.
Okay. And can I flip it? It's going to go upside down.
And actually the other one you sent,
There is a better one.
it's clearer, yeah.
Yeah. But this is the one that's referenced in the deed, so I'm going with this. So this is B3, and the access piece is out here on Mason Road. So this is the well site, and I believe it includes the furthest field, the existing field.
Yeah, so I believe the link that I had sent that went out to everybody, that was the maps of
Yes.
the property. If you get rid of all of the layers, you can see the field and where it is on that parcel.
Can you share that? Let me talk about this one.
Yep.
I think the well site is right here. And the 400-foot radius is this, which I don't believe includes the fields.
No, it does not.
And so if you go back to the deed, and let me see if I can do this. I did. Okay, so it says, the portion of parcel B3A shown on the map as existing wells and within a 400-foot radius of the existing wells and the access strip from Mason Road may be used by the Townsend Water Department as the site of a future well and access and egress. What I'm trying to make sure is that the water department gets what they want for the well and that the soccer field is able to remain. That's what I would like to see happen. And Michael, I just want to address, this is kind of off the subject, what you said last time about what happened in Chelmsford and an office building going up.
Mhm.
That is exactly why we're doing this, so that we don't wind up with someone in town saying, let's dig that up as a sand pit, gravel pit. We can get money there.
Mhm.
I want to make sure that the use that's in the deed is the use of the property. And a CR does that. It's just, how do we do it?
Right.
How do we make what is meant to happen in the way it's supposed to, in perpetuity?
Right. Well, just to make clear, I will reiterate what I said at the end of the last spiel. Regardless of how I came across, I am totally in favor of the CR. If you have any doubt in your mind.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But I just wanted to say,
Right.
that's why we're doing this.
Right.
And it's to, and I really did want Todd participating on this committee so that we have the water department included in this. So this is what I see. The property is owned by the town, but this says it can be used by the water department. And so the idea is to write the CR and have the ownership and what is included and excluded as far as property goes to allow this to happen.
Mhm.
And I'm not the water expert, Todd is. So we really do need that piece. But anyway, so back to the really terrible map. So that's the part that is, it's this part up here and the ingress and egress. Now, my question is for you, Emily, is does the species inhabit this parcel of the
Yes. Yes, that's a very busy area, especially for the most threatened of the species. So yeah, unfortunately.
We need to think about that, even if we decide to deed this differently or to have a different CR on part of the property than a different part. We need to see that that's specified somehow. I mean,
I'm wondering if under the allowed uses, we could have a section for the water department, that shows that one of the allowed uses is for the water department if they desire to activate those wells and use the area of that 400-foot radius around, so that we can word it so that it agrees with that portion of the deed.
and that the allowed use is the maintenance of the species happens from a certain period of time, whatever it is, April to November or whatever, and that the water department, if they were going to install a well, they did the work at a different time from that critical time period.
So is that the proposed location or is there a well there now?
There's no well there now, but there are test wells. There are test sites.
Okay, that's what I found. I walked the site
Oh,
a few
good.
days ago and I found the test wells.
Yes.
And I was surprised. And when last night at the Conservation Commission meeting, I showed them a picture that I took of the two pipes that were a couple feet apart. And they were surprised as I was that it was on the embankment. It was at the top of the
It's
ridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't down lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is where the test wells are. And it's where, I mean, in my discussions, which aren't recent, they were from a couple years ago, that is the planned location. They didn't seem to think it was going to be anywhere different. So, yeah.
One other point is that the access thing there, that has been used by the abutters. They have all sorts of, they have gardens, fences, furniture in there. So that's just,
That can be that can be addressed if when the, I mean,
if the water department wants it, yeah.
if the water department wants it, and, the water department could decide whether to address that sooner rather than later. It's not, I don't think it's really in the purview of, I mean, I guess we could, but I don't know.
It's an encroachment of some sort, so someone must be able to enforce it.
It's usually the land use coordinator, which we don't have right now, who starts that sort of action. At least that's what's happened in the past when we've had encroachment.
Now, what happens, that's the test well. What if they decide, okay, we're going to put the well in and they find that it doesn't produce the amount of water and they would like to drill somewhere else in close proximity? Does that need to be built into the CR too, or I don't know?
It depends on, maybe, I mean, I don't know either. It depends on how says I'm within a 400-foot radius of the existing wells and the access strip. So the existing wells are like you said, they are test wells, but this is how it was written. So that is something that you really want the water department to weigh in on. But if you go by the deed, it's this, it's where those test wells are.
Yeah, it looks to me like that's where the water department may put their wells, is in that circle.
Right.
So within that, any part of that circle, you think? The 400-foot radius or the
That's how I am reading the deed.
Radius of the existing wells. And what was the date on this deed? Do we have a date that we can easily read?
I think it's a
2003.
bottom.
I'm looking at this right here.
Yes.
Yep, 2003. So it's been a long time. All right. So to what you were saying,
the Tesa fields are not within that 400-foot radius. They
Right.
are on that same parcel, but they are outside of it.
So what do you? So we could specify that the water department has exactly what's in the deed, the 400 feet, and block that part out from the CR. The CR isn't included there, but we would want to put something in there. Or there's that water supply CR.
Right.
That
and I think that could take care of everything. As long as the water department was willing to hold the CR, they would get their rights to the water, but they'd also have to maintain the habitat of the
whole thing. So you're thinking giving them B1, B2, B3, all parts.
Well, they don't, wait, it still stays with the town of Townsend.
Right.
They just are the CR holder for the entire property. Same as if we had Mass DEP or Nashua River Watershed, right?
Yeah.
They hold the CR for the whole property and they follow what needs to be done
For the whole property.
for the whole property. So it's just who is the CR holder.
Right.
If the water department would be willing to be the holder, I think that would be a good avenue because they're invested in the town. They, you know, it's,
Mhm.
and they're gonna be very invested in keeping the property for water
Water.
use as well. So they may, I was hoping our water department person would be here too.
I was too.
I have a question though, because I, I think I earlier learned that since the town of Townsend owns the property, that that the Conservation Commission would not be allowed to be the holder of a CR because the Conservation Commission is part of the town of Townsend's government. And wouldn't that apply to the water department?
No, because the water department is a special case according to, one of the things that went out was a link,
Yeah.
the CR for water supplies. And in that, it says a CR for drinking water supply purposes may be held by a municipality or water district through its board of water commissioners. So to me, that says our water department can hold the CR even though we own the property or the
That-
town.
Okay.
That is a question that we need to get an answer for.
Yeah, we definitely would have to verify that
Um,
my understanding of this is correct.
can the water department through BOWC hold, sorry, I'm slow,
No, it's okay.
hold a water supply CR? I read that stuff too, and I agree with you. It read that way. Hold a water supply CR if the town is the property owner. Because it is true. That's why we couldn't have the Conservation Commission hold the CR.
Right.
The Conservation Commission at the time voted not to take the property. And I'm not willing to change that at this point, only because in 5 years, the Conservation Commission could say, we don't want it anymore.
Right.
Or
I'll
we're
just-
not going to maintain
I'll
it
just
anymore.
point this out, and not that I just want you to be aware of the fact that in the minutes of the meeting, when they voted to relinquish their ownership of the property, it states that the CR would be held by a land trust.
That's what we were trying to do.
That's right,
That is what we were trying to
but the
do.
water department is not a land trust.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But it's,
But I won't tell anybody if you don't.
but they do have they do have a right to using that piece of the property.
Right.
A deeded right. So it's not ownership of the property, but they have a deeded right to use the property, and that, the other option is to cut this into two pieces, say, okay, there will be a CR held by this person on this part of the property, a CR held by another on another part of the property. That's another option.
And the other issue is, would the water commissioners be willing to be the holders and do what's required of the holders of a CR, which means, the annual inspection of the entire portion of the property that's under the CR, and would they be willing to do that?
That is also a good question. So that's question number 2 here.
Do I not remember correctly, at the first meeting, there was some talk about the town would still have control over the soccer field, so they could negotiate the leases and all that with the soccer or any other entity. And the strip, the CR would only apply to the strip that would be the berm, the ridge, and
Mhm.
so it wouldn't be that the water department would hold a CR over the entire property, only that portion of the property that we want them.
Right, and that was my big question, because for allowed uses and non-allowed uses, if we are not including the soccer fields in the CR portion of the property, we don't need to say that soccer is allowed because it's not part of the CR area.
That's
Right.
true.
And that's where I was like, wait.
Right. It's my understanding that the soccer fields and parking area and access road are not part of the CR.
This, I don't, it might sound a little off topic, but I think it relates to the question I have to what you just asked. What is your title, and who determines what the maintenance projects are going to be? Who's involved? Who initiates the projects? How is it, what's the process that happens?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, well, up until this year, it used to be just a couple of us, and we are permitted through the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program to do the work that we do. And so our permit has specific requirements of how we do that work. And we have also gotten advice from them about how to improve the habitat. And really what we have to try to do is prevent that ecological succession that would occur if we didn't pull out the saplings and so on, because the species we're protecting need the sunny, sandy area. And so we get advice from them. But there is no official nonprofit group or anything. It's just those of us who got permitted, and then as we get more volunteers, they get added to the permit as sub-permittees. And
So this
I guess-
NHESP issues the permit to you, correct?
yes,
And this is something that they do across the state in
yes,
habitat area.
yes. Our permit is not designated as that area in particular. Our permit is for Townsend, town of Townsend.
Uh-huh.
So if someone finds a species in their yard,
Yes.
they could call Emily or one of the permitted people to have the, have things protected.
So your question was whether or not the water department would be willing to take on the responsibility to do what you're doing now?
No, I don't expect them to go out there during nesting season for 6 hours a day. No, only crazy people like me do that.
Not necessarily do it themselves, but manage to have it done.
No, as far as I understand it, the holder of the CR has the responsibility of making sure that the allowed uses and prohibited uses are being adhered to.
And they have to do an annual check-in. So
Right.
once a year, they need to go and check the property and make sure that things are kosher.
You typically walk the grounds and make sure that the markers are still there, that there hasn't been any encroachment
Right.
over the ends.
I almost think they would want to do that because it's their water source area, right?
Right. You would think that the water department would be invested in in the CR part, not necessarily in the endangered species part.
Maintenance.
But if they were holding the CR, it would be a permitted use, and we could specify that they would work with the permit holders to see that the property was,
And maybe that they have to, file a report that says, there's saplings growing in this area that weren't there last year, kind of.
right.
And are the saplings in that area within the 400 foot radius?
We did do some clearing in
Yes,
there.
yes, there's lots of
Okay.
white pine. Usually, what we've been doing the past couple of years is we go out there and any really small white pine saplings that we can pull up by the roots, we do. And then the ones that have really grown to, I don't know, Christmas tree size, those ones we cut at the base. There are some invasive species. There's some bittersweet growing, so we try to pull that. They also on the riverside on one of the sandy slopes, there's a bunch of Japanese knotweed, and so we had planned to put hardware cloth on top of those plants so that they would self they would grow through there, and then they would grow so wide that they just get girdled at the bottom and die. But it's so steep there, we weren't able to do that. So now every 3 weeks or so during the growing season, I go there and I cut the stems of the Japanese knotweed and bag those. And I was actually there today thinking I needed to get a jump on it, and there wasn't any growing yet. So, but the hope is that this process will starve the roots, and the roots will eventually die.
Right. And how many people do you get volunteer?
Well, it had been mainly Jean and me the past couple of years, and then there were 2 or 3 others who would come sporadically and help us, especially when it's hatching time, because the hatchlings are adorable, and so people like to do that, and Jean really needed a break, so that sort of left me in the lurch. And I don't know how it happened, but I got about 5 new people to start this coming year, and several of them are young, so they'll be taking over for me in the not too distant future.
All right, and who is Jane?
Jean lives on Horseshoe Drive, Jean Erda, and she recently started working for the senior center, and having the full-time job and doing the work that we do here was just too much. So
So
she's taking a sabbatical. We'll call it that.
Is it fair to say that if you hadn't taken the initiative, that this work would not be done?
Now, there were others that did it before you, Emily, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. But to sustain it, we need always to have someone. I mean, I hope you're around for a very long time, but eventually, someone else is going to have to take over.
Well, no, I've got 2 more seasons, 2.5 more seasons, and then I'll be moving to Maine. So, luckily, though, I really think that I've got some people who are going to be here after I leave and continue the work. So I'm really hopeful about that. There are some people, there are several people. One is in the Nashua River Watershed Association. Another person lives on Mason Road and can walk there, and she's young. Another person is from Fitchburg, and she's a wetland biologist. And I only met her because she saw a nest in the center of Fitchburg and contacted Nashua River Watershed, who contacted me. So I went and I got the eggs, and we hatched out those babies. So, anyways, I got her involved, and then one time I was there, and there were two college-age guys there, and one of them is majoring in biology down in Florida, and he does work with similar animals down in Florida. And he's going to be helping us, and I think he graduates in another year. So these are people who are truly interested in this type of work. So I'm really hopeful that that continues.
And I know for the field maintenance piece, or the, the clearing of the trees and all that we did, there were a lot of people that came to help with that. That happened
Yes.
in like the November time period, October, November. And there were a lot of people there. And James was involved. He helped a lot with
Yeah,
that.
and I think the soccer program put out a call for help, that anybody who could come and help remove trees.
There were a
in that
lot
time
of
period.
people there. There were, I don't know, 20 or 25 people helping out. It was a good
Not
group.
this past year, but
The year before.
the year before, and that was in the spring near Earth Day, and a company had actually gotten in touch with the Nashua River Watershed Association asking whether there was anything that they could have their employees do for Earth Day. And so they got a bunch of their people to come. And I also have people from the Harris Center in New Hampshire. They and the Harris Center is sort of like an Audubon place. You know, it's all about teaching about natural history and nature, and they have a lot of people who work for the Harris Center who go into the public schools in that area. And anyways, they came and helped us at that habitat restoration time. So, yeah, so we were able to get a lot of help.
Okay.
And then Cy Montgomery and Matt Patterson, who wrote the book about these species, and they also have helped. So.
So there's no official organization, but it seems like it's sustainable for the foreseeable future.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be great if somebody from the Conservation Commission participated. It's really an amazing, amazing thing to see. It's like watching a nature program on Channel 2, but you're there. And it's just, I don't know.
Well, you kind of read my mind.
Oh, good. I will get in touch with you.
Okay. Yeah, good.
So looking at the map here, we are thinking that the CR would cover this piece of property, coming in from Mason Road, the 400 feet around the test wells, and then along the edge, we have better maps where the soccer field is and out this way for the CR, coverage of the CR. And the two questions I have is, can the water department through the Board of Water Commissioners hold a water supply CR if the town is the property owner. And the second one is related, would the water department be willing to hold the CR? So those are the two questions around that. So right now, that is the exploration for looking for the water department as the CR holder.
And
our
the conservation restriction would include the parts of B3 that are not on the soccer field. So,
Correct.
so around the soccer field.
Right, around this
Okay.
way. I mean, we would have to get better than this map
Okay.
to define that, but
Yeah,
yes.
so like the south side.
Yes, the stuff down this way and over here. I think this is the way you come in, correct, right here?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't read that very well.
Yeah, and all along
This
the
is parcel
river
B.
side of that access road, there's nesting all along there.
Over
Yeah.
here in this 30-acre parcel D
Yeah.
open space. So we would want that piece
Yeah.
and then the part that's along here where on the other side of where the parking is. And then the 400 feet well access excluded or included in the CR.
So basically everything south and west of the road and west soccer field.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess I must have missed it. Is it coming down the driveway? I didn't notice a big open space to the left.
It's all trees now.
It's all trees now,
Yes.
but the species still uses that.
Yes. Yes. They're up. From being there so many years, I think the same individual animals go to the same spots year after year after year. It's like clockwork. I know where I will find the nests. So,
And that hillside that is, as you're driving in on the left, it didn't used to have all those trees. That used to be much more sandy, and
Yeah.
the saplings have grown up over time.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
of the habitat maintenance has been done at the far end because it's furthest away from all the goings on,
Right.
I think. I also imagine it was a matter of the amount of people you could get to do the work at different
Right.
times.
right. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll do what I can to find the answers to those two questions. Actually, this has been productive. It gets us going somewhere on this. Let me.
Oh, just one other point is that there is a section closer to the houses, but on the other side of the soccer field where there are also nests. So just
up in
saying
here?
south and west doesn't quite work. Where there's sort of that indentation
You mean here?
above the word parcel B3.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Right in
Yes,
here.
right in there. There's nests there too. I mean, there are nests in people's yards in the development,
Okay, so
because
But
those
I-
animals can't, they just don't know.
But I think if we can specify the part and still, if there were, activity in areas outside of there, that doesn't mean that you can't protect there.
Right. Right.
So we can somehow specify that.
It's just that we don't want, when we look at prohibited uses, we don't want the prohibited uses to be occurring in that
space.
area.
Okay. So, All right, we're at 7:46. So we're pretty well set on this. Should we get a better map up? I don't know.
Emily, can I ask, is there overlap between the use of the soccer fields and the periods of time when the species are moving?
Yes.
And then, okay,
Yeah, they're supposed to, before they mow, they're supposed to scan the fields, but they don't do that. I mean, there was one time, one of the people in the evening had found something and they called me. I was home. So I drove down there and I walked across the soccer field towards the person and I looked down and there was a little hatchling on the soccer field. And so I picked it up and took it to the river, but the very next morning they were mowing. So I think I was supposed to go there that day, but yeah, there is an overlap. It's almost a perfect overlap of use of the soccer fields and the time when there's the species activity.
can you estimate how many adult species are
I
involved?
have records that I have kept for about 15 years, and I can share those records. I'd rather not
Okay,
get it
sure.
publicized, though. Um, but as the years have gone by, the numbers have gone up, which is, really hopeful.
Yeah, gratifying.
Yeah.
All right, so let me, all right, so I'll get the answers to those two questions. Yeah, on our agenda.
Allowed uses and prohibited uses.
Allowed uses, and can we just have a quick discussion on that?
Yeah.
I was gonna be more formal about it, but I think we'll just talk about this some more
Well,
at the next meeting, but
okay, I can save it for the next meeting.
no,
Okay.
let's talk.
Well, I'd be interested to get your thoughts, but I'm a retired teacher. I've taught middle school science with a strong natural history flavor for almost 30 years. And wherever I go, I'm sort of looking for opportunities around the campus, looking for places to take the kids. And so I'm always sensitive about, oh, this would be a good location for one thing or another. And that's what I had in mind when I took the walk, very, very long walk the other day. And it sort of educational uses kind of presents a conundrum. On the one hand, I think in a situation like this, you want to keep the location, the discussion kind of hush hush. The more people that know about it, the more they might actually want to tromp through the grounds. And even though there's a benefit to teaching kids about conservation and stewardship and all that, so I went there with that in mind. And I have to be honest, I didn't see anything other than maybe talking about the species itself, maybe the glacial history of the area, the assorted glacial drift that came down from the outwash from the glaciers, and maybe even some hydrology. But I didn't see anything that a discussion that you couldn't have in many other places. And so my take on it is sort of limit the by limiting the educational opportunities, and I really don't see a lot of them there. Kids tramping up the hillsides. I know personally there are some locations where I would not take kids to, because if they slide off the hill, they're 30 foot nonstop slide into the river. Having said that, and my next part of the question was going to be the discussion that we just had about this group and what you're doing to maintain and help the species. So my take, unless you have another opinion, is that I don't see any reason why we should let teachers bring kids there. And potentially erode the embankments, and so I don't know. That's my take.
Okay.
I think as far as education goes, I think you have to think about which students. You know, an environmental education class, it might be at the high school. It
Right.
might be a really, an opportunity, but to have second
And
graders,
this is-
maybe not.
This is what I was going to say. I was sort of outlining it. And down here is, having said that, older students and adults being involved. That's why I was going to ask you the question. I asked the question ahead of time. Yeah, sure.
So I think it depends on you have to think about.
I know, but that makes it tricky wording, you know, educational use limited to what? Yeah, at any rate.
For environmental education or, you know, high school age, or even,
If you could specify high
Right.
school ages and above and adults.
You know, there's actually a different place in Townsend that has a very similar geology to it. It's off of Route 13 along the river. And it's Fish and Wildlife Land.
oh, I know where you mean. It's where the cranberries are.
Right after the bridge, going
Oh,
south from
Yeah,
town.
that is also an old sand and gravel pit. Or was, you know, at one point. And you're right. That could be like a preliminary,
Yeah.
learning opportunity. Not part of this CR, but it could be used for that.
Like I said, there are other places that you could teach the same lessons to little kids.
Right here in town.
Yeah. You don't have to take them there.
Yeah.
So I think currently the property is not used as an educational source. I'm wondering if we would need to include that as an allowed thing on the CR, in the idea that maybe someday we might want to, or because the CR can be modified in the future if we find a use that we would like to, like the town can amend the CR to bring another use on if it becomes necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It still has to go through the whole process.
Right.
But it's not a current use of the property. Like right now, there's soccer there, there's the people who go for hikes. And then there's the habitat maintenance piece. I don't know that there's anything else that happens there.
Yeah, I actually sort of wrote a list because I'm there a lot. There are people who walk their dogs there. And I think dog walking is absolutely fine, but I think the dogs have to be leashed because very often dogs will attack these protected species and can kill them.
Isn't there
And
at least
also, I think people should be required to remove their dog's waste from the site after they walk their dog there. And hiking, I have no problem with hiking in there. But as far as prohibited uses, those sandy slopes, people have to stay off of those sandy slopes because erosion is going to happen with sandy slopes anyways. But those sandy slopes are especially important for nesting. But we need to be able to word it so that the people who are permitted to protect the species are able to go onto those sandy slopes just for those protection purposes. Another prohibited use that I suggest, and this is because someone has actually done this, is we need to prohibit mowing on the CR area between the end of April, like April 20th and November 10th. There's a person who walks his dog regularly down there, and he's scared stiff of ticks, getting ticks. So he just takes his riding lawnmower down there during the prime time when these species are going to be walking around, and he creates all these paths to walk. But I think that's something that shouldn't be happening, because besides being hit by motor vehicles, getting chewed up by lawnmowers is the second major cause of death for these species.
So I would think under the not allowed, motorized vehicles of any kind, including lawnmowers, are prohibited.
I agree with that.
Okay.
And that might take care of the issue. Motorized vehicles of any kind. Including.
You know who puts the bluebird boxes up?
Yes. Trying to remember his name. But he also, not only does he do the bluebird nest, but he also is involved in protecting or helping monarch species. And there are a lot of milkweeds that grow down there.
Yeah.
And he often goes down there and collects the monarch eggs and takes them so that he can let them hatch in a protected area. And he lives in Townsend. I just don't. Gary Sirois, Sirois, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. Just a quick one sentence off topic. I read a book about monarchs. This was a guy who's studying them. And he said that 50% of the babies, after they hatch, when they take their first bite, 50% of them their mouths get flooded with pressurized latex. So right off the bat, 50% of them are gone.
Oh. And there's also black swallowwort, which is in the milkweed family, where some of the monarchs lay their eggs, and that's poisonous. It kills all of the caterpillars that hatch.
Any other allowed uses, prohibited uses? We'll talk about this more at our next meeting.
Prohibited interacting with wildlife. I'm thinking of people who decide that it'd be fun to pick up a species because it's there.
Okay.
Moving and removing wildlife.
Harassing wildlife. There we go.
Or we could say removing reptiles. Because I'm just concerned about, the monarch eggs.
Oh, right. Yeah. We still want to allow for that, I guess. All right.
Collecting vertebrate wildlife.
We'll have to
A
think
little
about
more
that.
general.
So I had permitted persons conservation efforts for habitat restoration. And then permit holders are allowed on sandy slopes, but public are not allowed, must stay off.
Yeah. Are you typing on this? So I know that you can send to all of us. Thank you.
What about bike riding?
That would be a negative during the nesting time.
Okay.
In the CR part, I think. I mean, kids probably ride their bikes they don't?
One or two will ride in and park in the parking area kind of thing, but they don't
ride on the hills.
No.
I didn't see any tire marks on any of the open embankments going up to the top.
Well, that's
A
good.
few footsteps, but no.
Mhm.
Well, actually, we did have some difficulties with some boys who were riding their bikes down the sandy slopes one year. Yeah.
I think bicycles are no.
I think that's fine.
But not, I wouldn't want to prohibit them from the soccer area.
Right, but the CR
Right.
doesn't cover the
that.
soccer area, so they can ride
So
to
we're
the
good.
soccer area.
Good, okay. All right. All right.
And I think that time period that's critical is like April 20th to around Thanksgiving in that area, because we do get stragglers in November and we get early ones near the end of April. They're not nesting, but they're walking around.
So would things like riding bicycles and motorized vehicles be okay outside of that critical time period? I'm not saying they should or they shouldn't. I'm just curious.
It depends how heavy the motorized vehicle is, because although I'm out there a lot and I protect a lot of nests, sometimes there are nests that we don't protect and that don't get dug up by skunks and other predators. And there's one particular species where they sometimes overwinter in the nest. And their nests are quite shallow. So if it's a heavy motorized vehicle, it could crush them.
And I think the other issue with allowing things sometimes and not others is there's the who monitors, but there's also I didn't realize it was the wrong time, right?
Yeah.
So I think having a blanket makes it much easier for everyone to understand. You just can't do this here.
Okay.
And there's plenty of places in town where you can do all these other activities.
That's true.
So there's some nice signage there. It's like, I can't remember if it's like beyond this point, there's critical habitat or however it's worded. Can we put additional signs with a list of like no bike riding beyond this point?
I have signage written down. I think we should.
Yeah. And the other thing is, well, how realistic is it? Because there are only a few exposed embankments where the sand is exposed. How realistic is it to put some kind of fences up there so nobody can get to it anyhow?
So in part of Tase's proposal for the field expansion, we want to put a split rail fence along the edge of the soccer field to delineate, like, we need to stay on this side. The reason it's a split rail is because it does allow for movement of our lovely critters. And it also makes it so if a ball goes past during a soccer event, they can grab it and bring it back.
So this would be, as you're coming down and the parking area, it would be to the left of the parking area?
So along the parking area, we weren't going to do it there, but as soon as you get out to field 2,
Okay,
from where the parking lot is all the way down
I think
And
that's a great.
out,
Yeah.
so that it shows like this is the end of this soccer.
Right,
Stay
right.
over here.
And then we could put fences, signs
on the
on the
fences.
fences, or a post with a sign behind the fence or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, we already have a few signs kind of in the scrub there that say, don't go this way.
Yeah,
But without the fence there, sometimes people are like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
gonna go
that's
for a walk while my kid's playing.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And James actually put up some signs this last summer
Yep.
to try to keep people off of the sandy slopes.
Yep.
And we might want to delineate where the hikers can go up to the top and where they can come down. There's a trail right in the corner of the parking lot, the far corner of the parking lot. There's a trail that leads up, and that's one where, even though we get nests right on that trail, but that's the access for hikers to get up to the top if they want to walk up there.
We could put a walking trail sign.
Yeah.
I mean, we could, and then we could put, little markers on the tree to mark
To
the
show
trail.
people how to get there.
If there's a particular, most people, if there's a marked trail, most people will
Will
stay
take
on
it.
the marked trail.
Yeah.
They won't bushwhack.
And I will say the Tesa families are very good about not going out beyond the fields. It's mostly the visiting families.
Right.
You don't know. Yeah.
They don't know, and the signs are there, but whether or not they see the sign because they're going here and the sign's over here. So yeah, I think if it had a designated hiking sign, those are really visible.
Okay. All right, so if you could write those up and send them out to us, that would be useful. So as far as the review of the CR models goes, let's find out about the water supply, CR, and focus on that and get those answers, and then discuss further if we need to. From my standpoint, the EOEEA one isn't really what we want. We would either need the water supply, or if that, for whatever reason, doesn't work, the NHESP or the MESA one, which would mean we would have to discuss the holder, or Fish and Wildlife. Anne tells me that the Fish and Wildlife one is different from the MESA one. The MESA one is the one that I sent you.
Yep.
And so anyway, the EOEEA, what's good about that is looking to see the documents that you can look at to say, okay, this is protected, why? The other thing I want to make sure is that our deed is solid. As far as
What do you mean by the deed is solid?
That there wouldn't be any question about it being ownership of the town. I looked at this before and talked to Adam about it, and it wasn't, but I just want to confirm. That's all. That's what I mean by that.
Okay.
I believe the MESA CR, was that the one that they were updating, or no?
They sent me the updated one in 2020.
Okay.
I didn't send Mike Jones. That just got away from me, but I will.
Okay.
To check on that. And if that's the case, you need to, one of the things that I sent out was a link, I think it was, or was it a PDF? I can't remember which one I did, to the documents of the EOEEA one. wants you to specify in the CR, this is why we're protecting this property. You know, these are the conservation values of the property.
And I don't think we want to do that, correct?
I don't think we do.
Okay.
But if our water supply CR idea falls through, then we may need to. I don't know. So depends on the route.
Has anyone been able to contact the Nashua River Watershed to see if they want to?
Would you like to talk to them?
I can do that.
Yes, please. I have so much on my plate that to have it, you know, I'm willing to do it, but yeah, if you'd like to talk to them, Selena. I did, and the answer I got way back when, this was our Futterman days, was they wouldn't. And Townsend Conservation Land Trust was in the process of merging with North County, and North County had concerns about all the uses of that property and funding to keep things going.
Okay.
So that kind of ended that discussion, but it might be worth talking again, I think. So, all right, let me get back.
Hopefully the water department will work.
I agree. Did I X out of that? No, there it is. I have it up. All right, so that's CR. Agenda for next meeting is then to solidify as much as we can. CR model and CR holder. In all of the CRs that I've ever seen, there's a paragraph that you do for allowed and disallowed. If you could just pull out one of those and look at it, and we'll use Selena's list that she typed up while we were talking, and kind of think about how we're going to word that. Because no matter who we use, that's the case. So that would be the two agenda items I had for next time. CR model, holder of CR, and allowed, disallowed.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, then I will write that up. How about next meeting? How does everybody's schedule look? For me, it would be better if it was after town meeting, meaning after May 6th. So that's out 2 weeks.
I have a conflict on that
On the
Thursday,
Thursday.
but I could do the following Thursday if we wanted it to be 3 weeks.
I could attend remotely the following Thursday. If we want to stick with Thursdays. You have conservation on Wednesdays,
Right,
Michael.
And I have tons of soccer meetings on Tuesdays,
Okay.
like
so,
every Tuesday.
All right, so
different
let's go with Thursday the 15th, and that'll give us plenty of time. It's not like there's a rush to do this. When is your lease up though? But we can renew
Our
your
lease
no
is
matter.
good.
1 more year? I can't remember was it 22 or was it 23?
I think it was 22. The other
Oh, then
piece
we're
of it
good.
is for the field expansion to be able to move forward.
Right.
We are still working with National Heritage to try and get other stuff done with them.
Okay.
So I think the fact that this is moving forward,
It's a positive.
they might be like, okay, well, we don't have to wait for this to be done before we can do that.
Okay.
But I'll let you know if I find out differently.
All right. So are you good on the 15th, Emily?
Yes.
Okay, so let's schedule for 7 p.m. on the 15th. I will be out of town that day, but I will make sure that I get in on, I won't be here. I'll be on Zoom.
Okay. I move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 8:16. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye, Mike Pot said yes.
Selena Thomas, yes.
Veronica Cal, yes.
Emily Fine, yes.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.